off day and travel day for the Florida Panthers. On Sunday, we give you an update on the injuries as far as the players going into Game 5. And we also ask the question, is Paul Maurice protecting Matthew Tkachuk from himself?
Your Locked On Panthers, your daily podcast on the Florida Panthers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into this Monday, June 12th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. I'm Armando Velez. You can follow me on Twitter at Monoman12. Follow the show account on Twitter at LO_FLA Panthers and also on Instagram at LO_FLA Panthers. You can listen to our podcast wherever you listen to podcasts and on YouTube and on the Sirius XM app. And shout out to all the everydayers who come back here to get your daily Florida Panthers fix. So it's been now more than 24 hours since the Florida Panthers went down 3-1. It's, of course, very crushing, especially if you happen to pay a whole bunch of money to go into that Game 4 setting at FLA Live Arena, only to see the Florida Panthers go down 3-0, and then claw their way back, only to come back short. But there's still one game to be played, and the mindset is they still have 3 wins away from winning the Stanley Cup. Just you can't lose in the process if you want to think about it in that way. But we do have a very special guest here on the show on today's edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. He is a really good friend of mine, a guy I consider my media brother here, and he is Alex Baumgartner from the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Alex, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. Thanks as always for coming on. And you have been absolutely grinding throughout this whole playoff run for the Panthers, and grateful to have been with you in the press box throughout the last 2 games at FLA Live Arena. Of course, you have traveled to Vegas for both games 1 and 2. But just give the listeners your overall assessment on the first 4 games as the Panthers find themselves down 3-1 going into Game 5 Tuesday.
I thought they played a lot better hockey games 3 and 4 than they did in 1 and 2. Game 3 was easily their best game of the series, and they didn't necessarily look impressive in any of the games, in my opinion, bar maybe Game 1, the first 40 minutes. And then spurts throughout games 3 and 4. But the thing is, you got the big win in Game 3 in the comeback, and then they were literally maybe inches away from rallying again for another comeback. But none of that really matters because you're down 3-1 and you're going into a building that you're not good in. But another thing is, Florida has beaten every single team in this playoff run that they faced 3 games in a row. So they are a team that can, except Vegas, they are a team that can rally to win multiple games in a row. They have come back down 3-1. They have went through adversity multiple times just to get into the playoff. So if there is a team that could rally and force a Game 7, I'm not saying win the Cup. I'm saying a team that can force a Game 7, it will be the Florida Panthers, in my opinion. So that's my assessment right now. There's clearly some injuries. There's clearly been some problems that they were able to kind of address in Games 3, and then someone in Game 4 that I saw in Game 2 that they needed to address. The penalty kill was good for the one attempt they had to kill off in Game 4, and then Game 3 they had the big overtime penalty kill as well. But just win the next one. You just take it one game at a time. That's my assessment. And this team's really good at that. Every game's a Game 7 from next here on out. And as they said a lot throughout this playoff run, it's the first to 4. No one's at 4 yet.
That's what, and the 4th one is the hardest to win for every series, and we've seen that even when the Panthers were up 3 3-0 against Toronto Maple Leafs. So of course, they had to reset a little bit before eventually clinching that in 5. But also, for the Panthers, it's been a really hard time for them getting up the middle. And we were seeing that more and more in the third period of game 4 as well. But one thing that the Vegas Golden Knights have done a lot that the Panthers haven't been able to do as well is this little acronym called POP, pass off the pads as well. That's one thing that they haven't been really able to do as well, especially because the Vegas Golden Knights are just great at puck retrieval as well in their own end as well, and also with perimeter based shots. I mean, I was talking about this with Kevin Rodigan of the FLA Catnip podcast. Vegas, their blue line, no one's under 6'2" as well. And of course, the experience with the top pair and Alec Martinez and Alex Pietrangelo. What happened in game 3, they took the eyes away from Adin Hill. The 2 goals in game 4, they weren't really ones that you take away the eyes of Adin Hill. As far as formula to create more scoring opportunities, what do you think is that? Is it more of the enter the zone and quickly get an out before the D draws back in front, or is it more of the screen game?
Yeah, Vegas has elite D. Vegas is very structured in their D, and it's not like I'm saying Florida has bad D, but Vegas's D do not give up too many odd man rushes in transition via stretch pass, where Florida's does a lot. Vegas does a really nice play where they'll spring the far side winger pretty much in stride towards the zone, and they'll throw the puck to the other side. So if you watch the Panthers Knights games all series long, you'll see the offside winger take steps in. Now, they don't always score on that because it is a tough angle, but they're generating zone entries off of that. And you can't really do that on Vegas' D. Vegas' D is better at shutting down. I think Florida has better offensive-minded defensemen, like a Brandon Montour and Aaron Ekblad. They're more offensive-minded, but Vegas has ridiculous, elite defenders like a Shea Theodore or a Pietrangelo, Alec Martinez. He's also been there. They have good D. In terms of what the Panthers need to do, I think the POP is the most important thing. Just get the pucks on the pads and then generate stuff in front. They tied game 3 like that. They almost tied game 4 like that. Just generating stuff down low and then putting it into highly dense trafficked areas in front of the net, because you're like, even the fastest players, bar maybe Anthony Duclair, is really getting a step on these Vegas Golden Knights defenders. If you look at that Barkov goal, it was a beautiful set play of hitting Lundell in the bumper, hitting Montour in stride, Montour dipping his shoulder, knowing that Barkov or someone would be on that far side and then taking a one-timer. That's what you have to do, because it's very, very hard to get really good looks in this round of the Stanley Cup Final. Vegas would say the same thing. A lot of their goals come from top of the point, maybe screens, power plays, where Marchessault is getting a quick step. Not a lot of just transition, 2-on-2, 3-on-2 goals where the puck is straight from the forward into the net. There's a little bit of movement there. So I think that's what the Panthers have to do. Get more movement in front of the net. Take the eyes away from Hill. You just shoot for lanes, shoot for sticks, shoot for bodies. Something will go in. And it's happened multiple games in this series. Anton Lundell's goal in game 2, excuse me. You had Brandon Montour's goal in
game 4.
Yeah, he's like throwing pucks towards the net.
Double deflection for Brandon Montour, and then Anton Lundell's at the beginning of the third period off Alec Martinez as well in game 2. So sometimes you gotta try something, because those are the ones that Adin Hill just can't react quick enough as far as that as well. But we're going to transition over to segment number 2. We're going to discuss more about the line shuffles, what we expect for the Florida Panthers. Of course, there is that injury question as far as what Maurice can possibly do going into game 5. We're going to discuss this next here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. But first, we're going to tell you all about Athletic Greens. And our next partner is a product that I literally use every day. And I started taking AG1 because, I spent a whole week in South Florida, which means I'm going to I'm going constantly to those Cuban restaurants and ordering myself a café con leche, a cortadito, cafecito, all that stuff. So I need a little bit of a break from the coffee as well. So that's why I take my athletic greens. So what is this stuff? With one delicious scoop of AG1, you're absorbing 75 high quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help start your day right. This special blend of ingredients helps support your gut health, your nervous system, immune system, energy, recovery, focus, and aging. All the things. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition with just one scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different supplements, pills, and to look out for your health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1 year supply of immune supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NHL network. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/NHL network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. Segment number 2 here on this Monday, June 12th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. I got Alex Baumgartner here from the 5 Reasons Sports Network. And Alex, really, this is the time of year. I think of hockey kind of like baseball, where desperate situation comes, where a pitcher's going into the game, and it's if you give up a few runs, even in the first 2 innings, you're gonna get yanked. You're gonna get yanked right away. Hockey, of course, you have to have all 18 skaters going, and it's going to be really hard to shorten that bench as much without giving someone a shift here and there because you're only going to overexert your top line. But you're down in this series. We even saw Barkov take an enormous amount of shifts in the third period. Of course, injury has to do a lot with that, and of course, Lundell and Barkov together did well at first, plateaued a little bit throughout the season, but how do you expect the lines to look going into Game 5? Because I mean, Rhino can be well in a top 6 role, but of course, balance within the lineup, putting Duclair back on that third line as well, and then of course Nick Cousins a little bit on that top line, probably going to the third. How does Maurice manage this?
He's going to roll 4 lines for the first 40 minutes of the game. I have no question about that. You can't run 9 skaters for 3 straight games if you want this thing to go to 7.
No way.
Vegas is going to run you down by the first period if you try and do that in the first place. Look, like guys that were playing good were getting ice time. I mean, Anton Lundell was playing. I thought it was his best game was playoff, and he's really. It's a shame that there's not more playoff games to see how continuously he'll grow because he's looking absolutely unbelievable now. But he's one to watch just for the future. He's playing a big role now. But I mean, if Etu doesn't skate tomorrow, I doubt he's going to play. I don't know if we'll see him again. The rest, I mean, he hasn't played yet. They would love him in the lineup because that third line was unbelievable with him there. Reinhart and Lundell have been together for a very long time. They put him with Barkov yesterday. The line combination is just kind of who's clicking that game. I mean, Eric Stahl was probably the best player on the fourth line, so that's why he was getting more ice time than Zach Dalpe. He looked like he was playing better than Nick Cousins. That's why he was getting more ice time down the stretch than Nick Cousins. It's just whoever's hot that game is hot. Now you're going to see the Barkovs and the Verhaeghes and the Duclairs playing at the end of the game, or the Bennetts, excuse me, at the end of the game. And if Matthew Tkachuk can play, he'll be there at the end of the game. Now, I can't tell you what's wrong with him. I don't know if that's a lingering issue from the Game 3 hit. They're smartly not disclosing why he's feeling like that, why he didn't play a lot. I wouldn't disclose it either. I know that you let off the show is Maurice protecting Chucky from himself. I don't think he's protecting Chucky from himself. I just think there's no need to, tell your opponent, hey, my guy hurt his shoulder. It's the left shoulder. It's because of that hit. So if you run into that left shoulder, you might hurt the shoulder. They're not going to say that. This is playoffs. If he's playing, they're not telling him anything. If he's questionable, they're not. Matthew Tkachuk's not the player that you're going to say it's a game time decision. They're going to say, all right, if he's there, he's there. If he's not, he's not. They're not protecting Chucky from himself. I think they're just making sure you don't give intel or whatever to their team. Basically, that's what I think personally, because I would do the exact same thing.
Yeah, and I think of I mean, there's also that famous uh Maurice line of describing Chucky. He's a expletive gamer. And that's just who he is. And yeah, he
If
felt
Matthew
I
Tkachuk can skate and hold his stick with one hand, he'll be on the bench for Game 5. I
I
have no
have
question about
I
that.
have no doubt about that as well.
Because
And
unfortunately, the Panthers, even like first of all, you don't really have the options to throw. I mean, I would much rather have an injured Matthew Tkachuk than Giovanni Smith come in, or I'd much rather have an injured Matthew Tkachuk than run 11-7 and put Casey Fitzgerald back. And that's just how I'm thinking. And I'm thinking Paul Maurice does the same thing. And if Matthew Tkachuk has any say in it, he's going to be on that bench and he's going to be there if they need him. His shifts might be shorter if he's nursing an injury, but a lot of the quality Matthew Tkachuk possessions come right around the goal line, and he can probably tough it out then if he's able to. So that's my whole take on the Tkachuk thing.
yeah, and you just think about the psychological aspect if you were to not play at all. And of course, Paul Maurice was asked more about how and David Dork posed this on an article about what it's going to look like, and you bring different guys for different situations. Oh, you're going to have the one guy here in the faceoff circle on the defensive end to get an out. In Kachuk's case, you're likely gonna you're for sure not gonna take him out the power play. No way in hell you're gonna do that. You're also gonna, in late game situations, of course, if they're down, you're gonna try to get him up in front to bother Aiden Hill as well. You're gonna try to roll him as much as much as you can. And for Kachuk, and of course knowing what's on the other side of it with the Vegas Golden Knights, you gotta keep them on their toes for sure. And of course Vegas, by as every right as they should, they've beaten Matthew Tkachuk with him being banged up. So they're not gonna go into this game any differently than what they did even in Game 4.
I mean, Matthew Tkachuk's biggest game was him being banged up because he got banged up in Game 3. He scored and then he assisted on the winner. I mean, just having him there, it's going to help the bench, and the game plan for Vegas is going to change because, well, it's not going to change. It's just there's that one guy you're still going to have to worry about. Matthew Tkachuk's not a speedster. He's not a guy like a Barkov that's two-way outstanding player. It's Matthew Tkachuk. He comes up clutch, and he comes up clutch in the tighter areas of the game. So, yeah, he's hurt, or it looks like he's hurt. We don't know if he's actually hurt. Nothing's confirmed. But Matthew Tkachuk's not a fast player. He's not going to beat guys one-on-one that often like a Sam Bennett might or Verhaeghe. So if you need him for power play situations or just end of the game situations, you just have him on the bench if he can't play the whole time. That's my take.
Mm.
That's all I'll say on that.
Just to have it at their disposal, that's really you want to at least have the option there for if you're Coach Maurice. But we're going to transition over to segment number 3, where we're going to discuss how the Vegas Golden Knights defend Matthew Tkachuk with that injury and the effects on the shooting motion with Chucky with this nursing this injury. We're going to discuss that next year on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. But first, we're going to tell you all about eBay Motors. And for a championship team, it's all about making sure that every player is the right fit. It's the same when it comes to your vehicle. Every part needs to fit just right. So next time you need parts and accessories, head to eBay Motors. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, you can be sure that every part you need fits right first time around. Just add to your ride to my garage and look for the green check to know that part will fit, or your money back. Just like in sports, confidence is the name of the game when you shop at eBay Motors. And with over 122 million parts to choose from, you'll get back in the game in no time. After all, it's easy to bring home a win when the right parts are guaranteed. Get the right parts, the right fit, right price on ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. Third and final segment here on this Monday, June 12th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. I got Alex Baumgartner here from the 5 Reasons Sports Network joining me on today's edition of the show. So now we spoke about injury updates. We spoke about forward lines of how the combinations are going to be. But now let's talk about positioning and defending Chucky when it comes to that shoulder. Of course, he's a left-handed shot. From the looks of it on the TV angle, it looks like that he landed on his right shoulder, which is the part of his body when he's in the offensive zone that is the most exposed, at least in that part. But from your perspective, Alex, tell me how does that affect more of how Vegas is going to defend him, and more importantly, how Matthew Tkachuk is able to lift the puck off his stick and go through his shooting motion and even his cycling of the puck.
Oh, look, I don't know entirely what's up with Matthew Tkachuk. He landed on one shoulder. It looked like he was holding the other shoulder the next game, so I don't know where the injury really is. If I'm Vegas, even if it's healthy Matthew Tkachuk, I'm not changing anything. I'm up 3-1 in the series. I'm not changing anything about my game plan on Matthew Tkachuk or any Panther for that matter. I'm sticking to my game plan because it's worked. Vegas could have swept. That's honestly how this series,
Yep.
they led in every single game this series at one point. I'm not changing a thing. I'm going to play the same hockey or the same brand of hockey that I've played all playoffs long. They've taken down McDavid and Draisaitl, who have been the best playoff performers for multiple years, and they controlled them pretty well in that series. They've done well against Tkachuk. They've done well against a lot of the Panthers. That's why they're up 3-1 in the Stanley Cup final. So in terms of what Vegas does, I wouldn't change a single thing. And we don't even know if Matthew Tkachuk's going to play or how much he's going to play. I don't change anything. I play the same brand of hockey I played. In terms of how he's going to lift the puck or which angle, if you're hurt, you're hurt. If you hurt a shoulder or anything, it's going to affect your ability to play. There's no doubt about that, especially in hockey when you're moving your shoulders so much. He looked like he was playing with one arm last game, and I don't really expect that to change too much. That's it. That's all I know.
Yeah, and we were talking about pre-recording about how much of your shoulder is used for whenever you're handling the puck, especially with if we assume that it's the right hand side.
It's a full contact sport, even if they weren't handling anything, just taking a hit or blocking a shot or laying a hit. Matthew Tkachuk wasn't really throwing the body last game, and he was kind of trying to get out of the way of hits. I mean, it's just if you're hurt and they know where you're hurt, it's like you got to be careful. And yeah.
So that's the tough part, and we were even talking yesterday about the Panthers and laying it, not necessarily laying it low on the hits, but Paul Maurice talking about the exerting of the energy when it comes to those hits, but then at the same time when you're banged up and your mobility isn't as far, then that's a completely different story when you're trying to finish your checks and even create something in transition, because the fact that the Panthers haven't really gotten in front, and like you spoke about earlier, how there's the odd man rushes are less and less throughout this time of the season, that is also an effect as well when it comes to that as well.
Yeah, well, there's at least the odd man are supposed to be less and less. Vegas still seems to get them. Florida's getting them too, but Vegas is just a little bit more threatening because of what I said, the way they kind of stretch the far side winger, and Florida's D just hasn't been able to really adjust to that, which is probably the biggest adjustment for me. And don't make line changes when you don't have control of the puck.
Yeah, and the thing is, for them, they play that simple brand of hockey when it comes to that. And the thing is, for the Panthers, I thought that their play in the neutral zone was really great, especially in game 3, where there wasn't only 10 shots on goal combined for both teams going into that game. And I mean, The Panthers, they have a tough task ahead of them in game 5 of the Stanley Cup final. It's a travel day. We they'll hit the ice for practice, but how do you, especially with this being over 100 games, uh there's not much that you're going to get too much out of one practice this late in the season. How do you expect the Panthers to go at it? Do you think it's going to be very light? Because I think it's going to be very light of what they're going to do on the ice prior to game 5.
Even throughout the season, like you don't really practice a lot. Now people are going to say, what do you mean they don't practice? They skate every day. Yeah, they might skate every day, but optional morning skates and a practice are two completely different things. So yeah, practice, you can look into I mean, even for a full practice, there's really nothing you're out of the ordinary. You're going to do your normal reps and stuff like that. You're going to work on special teams for a bit. There's nothing really that you're just going to be like, oh, we didn't know this was going to come out in game 103 to practice whatever this is. It doesn't really matter. You're just getting your guys on the ice and keeping their legs ready. That's all these practice. Like after training camp, really, practices are just keeping the guys going, maybe adjusting stuff throughout the season. There's no adjustments they're going to make in one practice. It's not.
No way.
They probably haven't changed a single thing since their last practice of the regular season, or like 15 games before that. That's just how it is.
Yeah. So yeah, and it's all just routine for the Panthers now when it comes to that, and it's just, and they have the benefit, thankfully, of having 2 days off for whatever that is worth when it comes to health, and of course we'll know more. It's what the only thing we're likely going to get out of Monday's practice is, honestly, who's on the ice and who's not. That's basically all we're gonna get.
And even then, people can take maintenance days. It's like
that too.
I would not be shocked if Tkachuk takes a maintenance day, and whoever else. Like guys take maintenance days all the time during the playoffs, especially. It just happens.
If he takes a maintenance day, I think I'm gonna take a break from Twitter for like a few hours.
He takes maintenance days all the time. It just happens. It's like him, Bennett, Ekblad's taking a couple. I mean, Forsling at the beginning of the year was taking him when he was playing 25 minutes a game. It's like the whole team took a maintenance day. I wouldn't be too worried.
Yeah, but I just don't want to be on Twitter and see the reactions and the mentions and all that. That's one thing I don't want to be in. Even though I think he'll end up playing on Tuesday night for game 5. But Alex, any final thoughts before we sign off here? The Panthers are already in Vegas, and then of course, like we said, we'll know more about the statuses of players if they're on the ice or, like you said, maintenance days. Any final words?
Win the next one.
Win the next one. That I like it. Best way that we could end it here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Alex, I want to say thank you so much for joining me on this show, and tell everybody where they can follow you and your work online.
Nah, don't follow me. It's all good. No following this time. I always do it. No following this time.
Even though people can clearly see it on the YouTube, and people can see it on the description and all that. So yeah, if you guys want to go ahead and search yourselves, like knock yourselves out. But Alex, thank you so much, my friend, and I'll see you next time, my friend.
See you for game 6.
Oh, see you for game 6, my friend. So Panther fans, before we sign off here, it is usually I end the show in my normal outro, but today, as you hear on the top of the show, it is June 12th. So why is June 12th a specific day as far as memory? Unfortunately, on this day 7 years ago, we woke up to tragedy in Orlando, Florida, Pulse, Orlando, where 49 innocent lives were taken on that day, where a killer, he killed 49 people and then ended up killing himself after, and killed those people of the LGBTQ community at Pulse, Orlando. And I do want to take this time to send my thoughts, and if you do, pray as well for all those people who lost their lives. And just like how we spoke about with Marjorie Stoneman Douglas about Roberto Luongo, discussing how these acts of violence do need to in fact end. The same thing applies to these people, and the innocent lives that were lost on this day 7 years ago. And it's just, my thoughts are go out to the people who are part of the LGBT community, and of course we speak about Pride Nights and inclusion, to people of the community, and of course it being Pride Month, that we want to make sure that we are fighting the good fight of making sure that everybody has a safe environment to go to, especially in the sport of hockey, regardless of players not wearing a certain uniform, as far as for Pride, but also the fact that, at least the hope for me, is that we are continuing to make progress as far as everybody having a safe space to go to. So I do want to say thank you guys for listening to not only the show, but to that little tidbit of me, because it is a day in that is in memory for all the wrong reasons and all that. But make sure to come back for tomorrow's edition of the show. We will be bringing Jeremy Taché of Bally Sports on the show to discuss more about the Florida Panthers heading to Game 5. Talk to you guys tomorrow.